Looking for new spring outfits or decor? Shop St. Vinny's for quality clothing, furniture, and home goods. Thrifting's cheaper than shopping at big box stores or online, and April is Earth Month, so shopping at Vinny's is a great way to protect the planet. Plus, support local. All dollars spent at St. Vinny's stay in Dane County. Proceeds go to local food pantries, pharmacies, microloans, housing support, and more. Follow at Vinny's Dane County on Facebook and Instagram to be notified when special events are coming up or to see the latest finds in store. What's that? Supporting Wisconsin youth music education is good for the community and the spirit? I know that's right. Mark your calendars. Notes and Narratives is an intimate one-day benefit concert on April 19th at My Arts Madison. This year features The Soldier's Tale by Igor Stravinsky, a theatrical work combining music, storytelling, and dance. This is a great fit for people who enjoy theater, dance, or live storytelling, not just classical music. Get your tickets today at wisomusic.org. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Today, it's the Friday News Roundup. The UW system president is out. An update on Madison Men's Shelter, and a goodbye we no longer have to make. Plus, this week, we're kicking off a special fourth Neighbors-Only segment. Why is DoorDash spending so much money in Wisconsin? Joining me now to talk about it all is our newsletter editor, Rob Thomas. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Bianca. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. And our producer, Jade Isiri Ramos. Hey, Jade.
Hey, Bianca.
So I'm kicking us off this week with the big news over at UW. It's now a national story. UW systems president for the last almost 4 years, Jay Rothman, has been let go. According to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, it's the first time a UW president has been fired. AP reported on April 2nd that Rothman was asked to resign. He refused, and then this Tuesday, in a closed-door meeting of the board, he was fired. Since Rothman is telling reporters that he was, quote, blindsided by this move and wasn't given clear reasons for being let go. Rothman has been at the helm of the Universities of Wisconsin system since 2022, overseeing the 13 university network, which has roughly 165,000 students. To give some scale, his tenure has been tumultuous and pressurized, facing economic pressure from declining enrollment to navigating loss of federal funds to debates around free speech on campus. So, y'all, are you surprised by this development? It's a pretty big one.
I mean, Jay Rothman is surprised by this development, so I definitely am. I mean, I certainly had no idea this was coming.
I feel the exact same way. It's like, I think I'm less surprised than Jay Rothman is.
I feel that way too. I'm like, well, I've heard your name a little bit, some controversy. You know, for sure, one of the biggest controversies is the deal that he brokered back in 2023 with the Republican-controlled legislature to freeze diversity, equity, and inclusion hires across the system. And that was a trade for releasing millions of dollars of funds for staff raises and construction projects. But it left a lot of folks feeling like they were betrayed, and UW systems values were compromised, and it was an issue for public trust. Of course, that wasn't across the board because the Republican-controlled legislature wanted DEI to be reformed, if not completely removed. So in contrast to what Rothman has been saying about being blindsided by this move, the UW Board of Regents president, Amy Bogost, in a public statement said that this firing was not without notice and that the process was not sudden, that the board engaged with President Rothman in, quote, good faith discussions over the past several months. So, I mean, at the end of the day, he is an at-will employee of Wisconsin. He has a limited appointment, which means he serves at the pleasure of the board, meaning he can be fired at any time. And the top line of this is that the board has lost confidence in him and wants a shared, clear vision for the future of the system.
I still want to know why. I mean, I understand it's a personnel matter and there's certain things you can't discuss, but I assume we're talking about some fairly big decisions like the one you just mentioned, Bianca, the 2023 deal. I think it's very strange. It feels strange to not have either side saying this is why this happened.
Yeah, and I think that it's like there's been so many changes within the UW system, this what is it called again? It used to be called
It's now the Universities of Wisconsin, which I don't know. It is mellifluous, but it's strange.
It's gone through so many changes. For example, the rebrand, for example, many small campuses getting shuttered. And I think it makes sense if a board can't trust who's in head, they're going to fire them.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a really big job. And Rob, you're not the only person who's like, but I want to know why. This alarmed definitely certain Republican lawmakers at the Capitol. They're jumping in to question this firing and say Wisconsin is owed an explanation. Senator Patrick Testin, the Republican president of the Wisconsin State Senate, called Rothman's firing a, quote, blatant partisan hatchet job. So, oh my God, all of the pressure and the relationship between the legislature and the system it's coming to a head once again. It got quiet for a minute, but I am personally curious, why now? Like, what is this moment? We know that obviously the chancellor of UW, Jennifer Mnuchin, is about to be the new president of Columbia University. A lot of changes are afoot. Several Republican leaders have called for a formal hearing into getting an answer on what happened and getting an explanation for why he was fired. And on Thursday this week, there was a hearing called on the confirmations of 10 members of the UW System Board of Regents who are not yet confirmed by the Senate. So this is a back and forth in the dance that continues for how the UW system works with the legislature for funding and power. I don't know when it's going to end, but I'm curious to find out what's next.
We don't know what we don't know.
And that's the facts. We'll circle back to this in corporate speak when we know more. We've got more stories to get into, but before we do, let's take a quick break. Explore the wonders of science! Y'all, it's time for UW-Madison's Science Expeditions, the yearly UW campus-wide science open house. Yup, you heard that right. UW is opening its doors to their science labs and research centers to you and your family for free. From April 10th through the 12th, you can adventure around your top-tier public land-grant research university. You can talk with world-class researchers, enjoy science demos, and get hands-on at interactive exploration stations. The variety of programming is amazing. You can learn anything from what the inside of the human lung looks like to the science behind ice cream. You can even meet marmoset monkeys at the Primate Center. Again, UW-Madison's Science Expeditions events are free and open to all. So, see you at the open house? Find the full schedule at go.wisc.edu/science expeditions. All right, it's time for our weekly segment, Banking Outside the Box with Oak Bank, with the sponsor of this episode, Oak Bank. It's your opportunity to get your banking and financial questions answered by an expert.
Hi, I'm Stephanie East, Treasury Management Officer with Oak Bank, and today's question is, how do community banks support the local community as opposed to a large chain bank that's headquartered far away? Community banks invest client deposits right back into your local community. The money dispersed throughout our community supports families, businesses, and pertinent needs for everyone. At Oak Bank, the sense of community isn't just a nice bonus or just some theme that we operate or something we put in a mission statement. It really is how we operate and what we strive to do. Every year we have an annual pumpkin giveaway in the fall, and that is such a well-attended community event that everyone in the community looks forward to and also benefits one of our nonprofit partners for money raised during the event. That just shows that your money gets put to work at Oak Bank. We support Dane County causes and individuals. Our founder, Bob Gorsuch, likes to say that when he drives through a town, he can tell how well their local bank is run. If there's nice parks and libraries and thriving small businesses up and down Main Street, he knows there's a good community bank in town. And Fitchburg is certainly evidence of that. If community support is important to you, reach out to us at Oak Bank.
Huge thanks to Oak Bank for sponsoring this segment. If you've got a banking or financial question, hit the link in the show notes. You might even hear it answered in an upcoming episode. And we're back. Jade, you've got the next story on what's going on over at the Bartolon Drive Men's Shelter.
Yeah, so my news this week is an update on the highly anticipated permanent men's shelter, which will be the first of its kind in Madison. It'll open up on Madison's east side on Bartolon Drive later this year. And the city says that construction on the shelter is complete. However, there's been some confusion about the timeline of the shelter and when it will actually open its doors to people. So part of this confusion came up following a city-county homelessness issues committee meeting on Monday and a Channel 3000 story on Tuesday. So they ran a story with the headline, "New Men's Shelter in Madison Delayed Indefinitely." The reporting says that the shelter was originally set to open in April, but it has now been pushed back to an unknown date. And Rob, you ran the story in the newsletter. And when we talked about whether or not to put it in the newsletter, I had pointed out that I thought the headline was a bit deceiving. Did you feel that way about this story?
Well, it was confusing because I had remembered an April opening date from stories that I read last fall, but I think you said that they had adjusted that last month. But indefinitely, what is that? That means maybe never? Isn't that kind of what that means to you? Yeah.
That's what I took.
Yeah. Indefinitely to me means it's probably never going to happen. I think this is how I understand it. But yeah, like you mentioned, there were stories last month because there is a funding gap. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But there were stories from Spectrum News and the Cap Times. And all those stories cited summer, just sort of blanket summer, as the opening date. So for me, when you brought up the story, I wasn't even sure it was the same shelter. But back to the update, construction on the shelter is, as I said, complete. However, there's still quite a bit of stuff to be ironed out. The city's community development director, Jim O'Keefe, told WMTV this week that people got caught up on this April deadline, though that was never really the opening deadline, rather the construction deadline. And that there's still a lot of stuff that they need to do before the shelter can actually open, including a contract between the city, county, and Porchlight, which is the operating organization. There's also a matter of this funding gap, like I was saying. Basically, there's not enough money from the city and the county to support it as a 24-hour shelter. And so when it opens, it'll just be a night shelter. I know we've talked about that on the podcast, but it's a big concern for folks.
I think this moment is a testing ground for our city's capacity to support our homeless neighbors and the homeless folks in Madison. I have heard that basically the current temporary shelters have nowhere near the capacity that's needed. That the capacity is looking like some nights that they need space for 400 people, and just that there are not enough beds. And as we know, the Dairy Drive encampment was taken down and removed. And the answer to that was, well, we've got this men's shelter coming. Look to the future. We're on it. And then when you see delays, it does feel kind of like, are we on it? And not just delays, but do we have enough capacity? Are we doing enough? And every time we engage in this conversation with local officials or, leaders who are looking out for homeless populations and work with homeless populations in Madison, they say, it's not just one entity's responsibility to address this problem. It's a multi-pronged problem. But it is fascinating to watch and to know that there are just going to be continuing limitations on what we're doing in the space, and trying to grapple with our values and what's possible continues to be a challenge and something that we have to keep talking about.
And one of the things I remember about the Dairy Drive encampment that people praised was that it wasn't just a place to sleep, that they had these round-the-clock counseling and working with people and trying to get people, some kind of permanent housing. And that was originally the plan for this new men's shelter. There would be a 24-hour kind of full-service place. But as you said, Jay, that funding fell short. They tried to have a public-private fundraising group to get more money. They got a little bit, I think, but didn't come anywhere near the goal they were trying to hit.
Yeah, and I think both of you bringing up Dairy Drive, it's also the ability to be like, this is the place that I know has my stuff and where I'm going to go at the end of the day, and the mental weight that takes off of you, and sort of the ability to feel at home is a big need. And there's going to be changes to the way that Porchlight addresses this shelter and its beds. So at the current temporary shelter, it's a drop-in system. But at Bartolon, men staying there will have reserved beds. But there's only going to be 250 beds at the new shelter, while at the temporary shelter, there's 300. And they're, like you said, Bianca, often turning people away. So there's still some questions on how the shelter is going to cope with this once it opens, and how the city, county, and Porchlight will find that funding to hopefully bring this to a 24-hour operation, which I think everyone agrees is the end goal.
Well, hopefully they can get together the resources that they need. Jade, thanks for bringing the story. And I know that we're hoping to do a longer conversation on this soon and find the right voices there. And there's really a diversity of thought on how to best approach these issues and these limitations in our city. We've got more news to get into, some happy news. But before we dive into that, and cheers, let's take a quick break. Now we are back, and the ever-turning doors on who's going to stay open and who's closing continue to revolve. Rob, what's happening?
Yeah, like one thing that seemed to be sure for the last 18 months or so was that the Essen Haus, which is our iconic German restaurant and beer hall in the 500 block of Wilson, was going to go kaput. We would be saying Auf Wiedersehen to it forever, and we would all be feeling a little verklempt about that. And that's all the German words I know.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, I had to look it up. But in a plot twist, the Essen Haus is not closing and will live again for Oktoberfest to come, as far as we know. So have you guys been to the Essen Haus? Have you shared a boot with your friends?
It's been a long time. I'm pretty sure I went there for brunch. Did they serve brunch at some time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've eaten brunch there. I can't remember if I had a boot, but I've certainly seen them, and they're the size of my head and my neck, which is like 7 feet long.
In the summer, they really turned that back parking lot area into one of the best patios in Madison. I say, though, there is quite a bit of traffic driving by. So I've been on the patio of Essen Haus.
Have you played volleyball there? They have volleyball courts there in the summer too, don't they?
I have not played volleyball there, but I think it gets pretty intense. I know the Comeback, which is in the same building, I think they're the arbiters of the volleyball league.
Okay, yeah. So the Essen Haus and Comeback Inn are, I think, owned by the same people. They share a kitchen. I've been in both. In my younger days, I have shared a boot, which is a giant glass boot full of beer. I don't know if they still do that post-COVID. I don't think I'm going to be getting a boot anytime soon. Sort of like one of those big goldfish bowls at Wando's. It's kind of like you do it once and then you move on with your lives. But
some people do not.
Okay.
They stay getting their boot. Yeah,
All
they're
right.
2 liters of beer.
That's right. So yeah, Essen Haus is on that block of Wilson. Includes the Comeback Inn next door, the Up North Bar, and then the Hotel Ruby Marie. And then this may be before your time, but longtime music heads in Madison will know that the iconic rock club O'Kay's Corral used to be kind of on the corner there until it burned down in a fire on New Year's Day, 2001. So like this block is really like a slice of old Madison. Essen Haus has been there for, I think it's celebrating its 50th year this year. It's like one of those places where it's a beer hall, servers dress in German attire. There was a polka band playing when we went there, and of course lots and lots of German beer and sausage being served. And it's been on the minds of a lot of developers because that is prime downtown real estate. There were several attempts over the years to either redevelop the aging restaurant or just tear it down altogether, along with the Comeback Inn, and build something new. But nothing really stuck there. You'd read headlines and then it would kind of fall away. But in 2023, it seemed like there was a deal in place. A proposal was put together by JCAP Real Estate that included replacing the Essen Haus and Comeback Inn with an 8-story residential building and a 6-story hotel. But Hotel Ruby Marie would not be affected by that. And it looked like that deal was going through. And in August 2024, everybody was under the impression that the Essen Haus would finally shut down and be razed to the ground. And then we waited and it was still there. And everybody's like, well, I thought they were tearing that down. And then I'd read the developers and the restaurant owners saying, oh, yeah, it's coming. come back in and get your kielbasa one last time because it's definitely closing. Well, then this week, the Wisconsin State Journal reported that that deal is dead and the Essen Haus is sticking around after all. And now the restaurant's in the position of a lot of people thinking that they close, and now that they're open, they're trying to remind people that they're still open and bring some of that return business back. Samara Kalk-Derby in the State Journal very euphemistically referred to the Essen Haus as, quote, popular but deteriorating. And the restaurant manager said they're doing upgrades, including a recent restroom remodel to make it just a little more inviting and updated, I think, for drinkers. So right now, the restaurant's open evenings, Thursday through Sundays. They're taking signups for the volleyball courts, and I think they're getting ready for another Oktoberfest. So it is a very unlikely survival story for the Essen Haus.
I'm so happy for them. I truly, I had never been to the Comeback Inn, and last summer was like, we gotta go. It's going to be the last time. And to know that if I wanted to, I could sign up for the volleyball league.
There you go.
Yeah, I got to come back in one more time. I mean, hell, Europe has old buildings. This is based off of, some of their traditions. And I love the deteriorating note.
But popular. Yeah.
But popular. We can have some longevity here. And I remember feeling pretty sad and thinking that corner would be it's a loss. It's a loss of character, and it's an iconic part of Madison. So I'm definitely welcoming this news. And I have to be honest, I made peace with them going away. So I don't know. I have to protect my heart some way because it really is. It is just a trickster of an energy in Madison about who can stay and who can go. But good on ya. Good on ya. We're happy to keep you around, Essen Haus. And while we're in the conversation of places that we love, beloved Madison bars, we're actually going to do a special episode later this month on Madison's iconic neighborhood bars. The places that serve in many ways as the glue that holds neighborhoods together. So we want to hear from you. Which bar in your little corner of Madison deserves some recognition? Or a bartender that makes a difference in your life, your third space, where you go, and tell us why. Give us a story if you've got one, but definitely share a bit about why you think your Madison neighborhood bar is important and needs a little love. Leave us a voicemail at 608-318-3367 so we can play it on the show. That's 608-318-3367. Get in on the fun. It's going to be a really good episode. And hey, it's time for our membership shout outs. Jade, who do we have leaving a shout out in Madison?
Ben R. is shouting out a local poet and improviser. He says Tara Potasnik is a comedy innovator. Her new show, Free Verse, on April 22nd at the Forward Club, combines local poetry with improv for National Poetry Month.
A National Poetry Month shout out. Yes. We love to see it. And comedy improvising. Come on. We love that. Ben, thank you for that shout out.
And the Forward Club is kind of a hidden gem. Speaking of little hidden gem bars that have our hearts, it's like in Bree Stevens, sort of where you can hang out and get beer during the game or after the game, or even you can go and watch other games that you might want to see. And they've been hosting a bunch of improv and comedy shows recently. So definitely cool thing to check out on Madison's East Side.
Yeah, when I do the events calendar every week for our neighbors, there's always some cool show happening at Forward Club. And I was like, what is that place? Yeah.
It's in the walls of the stadium. It feels very underground. And honestly, it feels a little European pubby in a way. So Ben, we love that. Thanks for sharing the love for your friend, Tara. And hey, y'all out there, if you are listening and want to get an opportunity to make shout outs of your own on the podcast, won't you become a CityCast Madison neighbor? It's only $10 a month or $100 a year. And it's the best way to directly support the work we do. In addition to, of course, listening to the pod and reading the newsletter. So head to membership.citycast.fm/Madison to learn more and become a neighbor today. Okay, and now we're moving to our neighbors only segment. Why is DoorDash spending so much money in Wisconsin? If you're a neighbor, Rob, you have the story. If not, that is a great place to end this Friday news roundup. Thank you so much for rounding up the news with me this week. Jade Isiri Ramos.
Thanks, Bianca.
And Rob Thomas.
See you, Bianca.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm your host, Bianca Martin. We're produced by Jada Siri Ramos with help this week from Matthew Rogers and Jason Patton. Haley Sperling is our executive producer. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen. Additional music this week by Anders Fobb, Drew Shepard, and Simon the Jester from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. Rob Thomas is our newsletter editor. You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to the CityCast Madison newsletter. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who hangs out at your local hangout, your favorite neighborhood bar? All right, see you back here Monday morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, thanks for listening and have a great weekend.